Hi guys, Ian here. Welcome to my channel and to another video, and a happy Easter to you if you celebrate Easter. Now today, this is another really impromptu chat to you, and I don't really know what I'm going to say yet. I just know kind of what I want to talk about, which is death. And maybe that's quite appropriate for this weekend, which is a weekend on a theme of death and resurrection, but it isn't because of the Easter weekend that I want to talk to you. It's about things that are going on kind of in my life environment, and it's just caused me to think a little bit. And the death part of it is due to a death of someone who was important to someone who was important to me. And knowing and seeing the impact of the loss of someone. And also, there are people who are quite ill at the moment in my environment. And although it's probably not an illness to death, when we are very ill, sometimes it does cause us to reflect on our mortality. And so there's been thoughts of, death and what it is. And my question to myself was, do I fear death? And I've looked inward quite a bit, and I think that I don't. But that's quite easy for me to say right here, right now, because I have no expectation that I'm going to die anytime soon, although I could be wrong. But culturally, the British cultural sort of response to death is one of, well, we don't tend to talk about it. And, when we do talk about it, it's in hushed tones, and we use metaphors. We don't actually say the word die. We say, oh, they passed, or, we struggle, as I'm doing now, for words. We don't say, we don't talk about death as freely as we talk about other things. And when we do, we tend to talk about it with sorrow rather than celebration. And so my thoughts are whether the student of the mysteries, whether the pilgrim on the spiritual journey can fear death, and whether or not, if we do fear death, that shows us that we have a lack of understanding and a lack of awareness that we need to address. Now, I'm not saying it's not right to fear the way in which we might die, because who wants to die a long and painful death? I would guess no one. But death itself, need we fear death? And I think the answer is very definitely no. And my thoughts on this were about, I guess in my years of not thinking too deeply about things, I always thought that birth came first, followed by death. But now that I am a bit more aware of the nature of the universe, what it is, what I am, what divinity is, I realise that that's not the case. For us as spiritual beings, soul spirit beings of light and energy, the first experience that we had was not birth, but it was death. And when we look at this, we see that death is part of the birth process. Because if you look at it, let's look at it now from the Kabbalistic point of view, where we look at Keter as the first expression of divinity outside of Ein Sof Or, the no thing, the limitless light. So the first expression of divinity then is Keter, the crown, and then from Keter emanates the male and female aspect of God. Chokmah, God the Father; Binah, God the mother principle, the feminine principle of God. But Binah is has two titles, Aima, the Dark Sterile Mother, and Aima, the Bright Fertile Mother. And when you think of us as spirit, free-flowing, free-moving, all-encompassing, unlimited, which is what we are at our core and at our essence, to be locked into a physical form, a finite life, to be imprisoned in flesh, that is a form of death. That is why Binah is known as the Dark Sterile Mother, because she brings an end to the life of free-flowing spirit. She curtails and constrains and infuses all of that into the limitation of flesh. So our first experience is that of death, a form of death, but a form of death that we might be born into matter, which is the key to so much for us. It is the schoolroom of the evolution of soul. So when I look at it like this, I see that death is not a thing in itself. It's a part of the process of birth, because when we die to spirit, so to speak, we are born to matter, born to flesh. And likewise, when we die to flesh, we are released once more. And I was meditating yesterday on this, and in my meditation I saw an image of, well, at first I thought it was the Black Madonna, but I realized that it wasn't. It was a head and shoulders of a woman, black, utterly black, made of entire blackness. I couldn't see her hair. It was kind of shrouded. I could see her face. She was not young. She was not beautiful. She was harsh. And her face was harsh. And I looked in her face for any sign of emotion, and there was none at all. And I just kept watching, and then eventually there was the very slightest flicker of a smile, which then vanished. And I realized that what I was seeing Aima, Binah, as the Dark Sterile Mother, and the little smile, the fleeting half smile, was the smile that Aima gives when the body dies. Because when the body dies, death being a part of the birth process, we are released back into spirit, back into the limitless again, back into the realm of Aima, the bright fertile mother. And so we do not need to fear death, do we? We have died many times. We, as part of our birth, we die to spirit to be born to matter. We die to matter to be released again back into the realm of spirit. It's one of the deep mysteries of existence. And one, I guess, which is quite appropriate to contemplate at this weekend. Because each of us, we face death and resurrection in repeating cycles. So, no, I don't fear death. I just see it as a gateway. I see it as a mechanism and a means and a process for me to experience my journey. Anyway, yeah, that's all I want to say today. So great to chat to you guys, and see you soon. Bye for now.